Can we start? There's the burning question's got to be, is the homeowner actually starting to order some products?
Absolutely, they are, yes. Since we returned from lockdown, our inquiries, direct inquiries, which go out to our approved installers, are through the roof.
So was it sort of, were there orders in the line already before you came out of lockdown, or is that literally the phone been ringing coming through from installers?
Both. So we had windows in the process when we locked down. And of course, when we came back, we didn't know how many of those would be live. Would they be postponed? Would they be cancelled? I think we had one job cancelled when we returned on May the 11th. Everything else was live. Most of the installers came back at the same time. And then since then, both installers and homeowners directly have just been on the phone, digital actually, mostly digital. So we're getting online inquiries all the time at record levels.
At record levels?
Yeah, I've got a graph I can show you. Would you like to see a graph?
Absolutely, I like graphs.
We record new inquiries that come into the business from anywhere every single day. And that's our graphs for the beginning of the year. And you can see June's bar on the top one. That's already above average, and we're only halfway through June. But you can see the bottom graph really shows it. So you can see the dip in the middle where lockdown was. Everything just fell off of a cliff. And then since then, it's been growing and growing and growing and just going up and up and up.
But what's interesting there, Mike, is that you've got April actually higher than January and only just down on February.
It dipped at the end of March. It dipped for a week or so. And then you can see on the graph at the bottom, then it started coming up. And that's because everybody was at home, basically. From March the 23rd, everybody was at home. And that's when web inquiries started going up.
So you actually came back to work. What date?
We opened the doors again on May the 11th. We had a team working throughout the lockdown. So we had a couple of our sales staff, we had finance, directors were working, but basically the entire production unit was on furlough.
So the sales remained open, because what's evident there is you've had a fantastic May, but you didn't get back until May the 11th. Mm-hmm. So that's been phenomenal. So was that literally waiting in the wings, if you like, for the opening day, and then all these inquiries come through?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I was to say, we had sales staff on the phones and my emails all the way through. So they were working from home. Some of them are still working from home. So they were handling inquiries as they came in. Obviously, the trade inquiries dropped off during lockdown because virtually all installers were closed. But the homeowner inquiries, which we would then pass on to trade customers and approved installers, they went through the roof.
I think that's quite interesting, because I think the way we will end up handling people and customers in the future is going to be very different. I've heard from some people how they're actually using technology literally to almost do visits to the customer.
Yeah.
If there's been a problem, they've done it over Zoom or whatever, and people are actually then putting things right themselves, but with the help of someone from the factory. So it saves actually sending out a man in a van to do something. I think that's going to be the way things are in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, we were on that path beforehand. Obviously, we don't install anything, so we don't.
No.
We're not actually going out to homeowners at any stage, but we were already on a sort of digital path before lockdown, and lockdown has just demonstrated exactly how necessary that is. Really, it's the way things were moving anyway. This has just accelerated it. So we work closely with Tommy Trinder, for instance. So the Tommy Trinder software, which obviously people, the idea originally is that they could take it into your home and you could do all the visualization stuff and quote on the spot in the home with the person there. But all of that can be done remotely as well. We're working heavily with Tommy Trinder to make our products available through that software, so that our installers and people who want to buy sash windows from us can demonstrate our products to homeowners.
And are the installers actually picking up on the opportunities of technology, if you like?
Yeah, there was so again before lockdown, we started talking to installers in a bit more detail before lockdown, and most of our customers were really interested in it. There were some that weren't. Now they can't get enough of it. Basically, they're clamoring to get hold of this.
So you're using Tommy Trinder. Any other type of technology that you've adopted?
Yeah. I mean, we're doing the same as everybody, really. We're doing the Zoom meetings and the Microsoft Team meetings, demonstrating with producing a lot of video content. We're working with our digital agency, and we're developing 3 new websites which have got all sorts of different tools and gadgets on them that allow people to do much more research and do much more, get further down their buying process online with us before actually committing and saying, right, okay, now we need somebody to buy these windows from and install them.
How have you've obviously heard from competitors and other people within the trade. Are they having a similar experience? I mean, you are very much a specialist in vertical sliders. What about the general window? Have you heard anything about that, or is it very much down to niche products at the moment?
The people that we deal with and the people that we know, they seem to be having a very similar experience. I don't know whether it's the same across the board, but certainly there are some sort of more general fabricators out there that we talk to all of the time, and particularly during lockdown we were talking to. And they've come back and they're having a very similar experience of saying, we can't believe how much business we've come back to.
So how about the supplies coming into you so that you can manufacture? Has that been interrupted badly? Is that getting back to normal now? Will it change?
We had no real problem with that. We carry a lot of stock because we're, as you said, we're a specialist manufacturer. And we're basically one of the largest of those manufacturers. We're one of the largest vertical slider manufacturers. So the profile companies and things like that, we're one of their biggest customers for those lines. So we carry a lot of stock anyway, which saw us through. But to be fair, pretty much all of the suppliers came back quite quickly. So some of them were back the same week as us, but certainly a week later.
Looking at the graph that you showed earlier about how those inquiries have come in, if that continues, where do you think you'll be by the end of the year? Will you get back to where you were kind of pre-December last year? Financially, I'm meaning.
Hopefully. Certainly, if you just take March and April out of the equation completely and just say, okay, those months have disappeared. They're just a big hole. In terms of cash flow and sales and inquiries, we're basically back now to where we were before lockdown. And that will continue. Whether it continues to go up, I'd like to think that it will, but I don't know whether it will. I can't see that it will go up at the same rate that it's been going up for the last few weeks, because that would be impossible. So, you know, we might not make back 2 entire months worth of work, but certainly it'll be a normal year otherwise. That's what the indications are at the moment.
So the future, I mean, where do you go from here? Is it just more of the same, or will you now be looking for new markets or new products? Do you have to rethink what Roseview does, or are you quite confident that that market will hold for vertical sliders and for what you do?
A bit of both, really. I'm very confident that the market will hold for vertical sliders. The experience of the last recession, the experience of the whole Brexit thing, and so far the experience of COVID-19 is that when a market faces pressure, generally the higher end of that market faces less pressure than the lower end of the market. So, and I would say that we are at the higher end of the market. So therefore, I think that our part of the market will fare better than perhaps some others. So in that sense, I don't have any particular concerns. It's sensible to be cautious. You know, we're not spending what we would normally spend. We're being a little bit more careful here and there because we don't know what's going to happen. There's almost certainly going to be some sort of dip when the furlough schemes end. Because people will start losing their jobs, unfortunately, you know, out there in the economy, and that will have an effect on the market. So we're being cautious, but at the same time, we're being sort of optimistic, and trying to treat things as normal, really plan as we were going to plan, do the things that we were going to be doing anyway. And that involves strengthening our position in the sash window market, but also looking at some other things.
I wonder if this has actually helped people's patience so that there won't be the demand in the future for, I must have very short lead times, etc. And people will be more prepared to kind of wait for when it's ready for them rather than push, push, push.
Yeah, I think short term it will. I'm not convinced that it will long term. I mean, but when we first came back, our lead time was long because we were saying to people, look, we've only got 20% of our staff back when we, for the first week, and we've come back to a lot more windows than we were expecting to have to come back to. So, the thing that has to give is lead time. Our lead time went out. Everybody was very understanding. But then sort of 3-4 weeks later, not quite so understanding now. It's like, well, great, but, I've been locked down and I've got to put windows in this person's house. And then, it's perfectly understandable. So, yeah, I think, and in a way, I hope that a lot of those things will actually return to normal, because if they return to normal, it does mean that things have gone back to normal properly.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a good place to leave it. I think that's absolutely right. Maybe we're looking at the new normal now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it looks rosy.
Good. Thanks very much, Mike.
No problem at all. Thanks very much, Chris.